Welcome back to another episode of A Degree of Dopeness. I'm your host, DeWanda Shelton, and today I am given the great pleasure of introducing you to my best friend, Jason McCrady.
What's up?
He will be here today, and between the both of us, we have over 30 plus years of higher ed and educational experience, and we cannot wait to share it with you this episode. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back. We are here today talking about all things education. We have future Dr. McCrady as our guest. How is it going? How is education looking for you on the East Coast?
Virtually.
Virtually?
Everything is good as far as education. It's funny that we're having this segment today because I just wrapped up a meeting with administration talking about reopening schools. So I think it's an interesting time. It's a lot of confusion. No one really knows how this is going to play out. Again, I think the last time we discussed this, I was talking about being afraid, and people are still afraid. So it's crazy right now.
It is crazy.
It's a crazy time.
And that fear, and for those of you who don't know, I always assume that people know him because I know him so well. But tell us a little bit about your background. I know that you are a counselor, but express to us so that when we get into depth and I ask questions, they'll know why I'm asking you these specific questions. So tell us your history, tell us what you do.
Oh, my history. Okay. So I've been in education for quite a while now. Right now, I'm a site coordinator, which is very similar to a middle school counselor. And I provide interventions around academic, basic needs, course completion, and college awareness. It's a whole array, umbrella of social services that I provide. So I'm that support person in the building that will be able to, so for instance, if you want to come into the school and say, oh, Mr. McCrady, I have this great program where I can bring in volunteers to do mentoring and things of that nature with your students, I will be that person that you will come in contact with. And so I've been doing that for a long time.
A long time, right? That's all we know, a long time.
Not the 30 years, we're not that long.
No, we said collectively. Collectively, we have 30 years. No, we're not aging ourselves.
Right, I just want to clear that.
But yes, between the both of us, we have some experience. As you see, we bring guests on here that are experts in their field that know what they're talking about. And you discussed earlier about the fear. Not just the fear of the students or our fear, but what about the fear of the parents? You know, their inadequacies. Are you seeing that at home? Like, are they scared to take on this responsibility to educate their kids right now?
I would definitely say so, because again, this is all new. Like, we didn't know how to do. If you weren't doing homeschool before, you didn't know anything about virtual learning and having your kids at home while you're also trying to go to work. So I think that's one of the biggest fears because you have to think about, unfortunately, the education system is also a child care system for some parents. So you have these parents that they don't have the luxury of being able to work from home, so they have to go back to work. So then we come into contact with kids falling through the cracks because it's kids. They're not supervised. There are a lot of kids that are falling through the cracks because we don't have these kids that are being supervised. So if I'm a 12-year-old and you go to work, and am I gonna really get online? I mean, I might, but I may not be as successful or do as much as work as I should. So that's a big thing, and I think parents are afraid because at this point it's like, what options do I have?
What options do you have? Yeah, right. And I don't watch a lot of movies, but when I do, and if I do bring them up, they're because there's something that I want you to see out of it. It's part of the homework that we give on this course. Charm City. What was? Please.
Charm. Was it Charm City?
Charm City Kings.
I think it's called Charm.
Charm City Kings. One of the two. Yeah. Google it. But it was a movie that.
Meek Mills.
Yes, it was a really, really good movie, and there was a piece in the movie, and I don't want to ruin it for you, where I could feel the guilt of the little girl that was at home because she had not expressed to her mother the things that her brother had been doing while her mother was away. And that guilt comes from the obligation of having to have that responsibility. And, you know, as a latchkey kid, and I don't know if you were a latchkey kid, probably, no.
Well,
yes, yeah. But, you know, when we have those latchkey kids, you know, that are out there right now that are being also homeschooled by themselves, with, you know, when their parents have to go to work, it's not like because they want to. Right. They have to go to work in order to sustain these households. So what are some of the things that we can do to help alleviate some of the sibling pressures that are being pushed upon them? Because I don't think anybody's talking about that.
You know, that is $1 million question. And like this could go on and on because these are the kids that I deal with, the kids that are showing up to school late, or the kids that are not attending because my mom had to go to work and my little sister was homesick. So I am the babysitter who's 12 or 13, maybe 14. I have to stay at home, so I miss school. Even when we were in school, like I would literally drive to work and I would see some of my kids walking their siblings to school, and I may be, a few minutes late, but I would see kids. So if I'm a few minutes late, that means they're late as well. But the elementary school doesn't open until 8, and their classes start at 7:30. So I have to wait 30 minutes to drop my sibling off and then get to school. So you have to take into consideration all those factors.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And we're not saying that it's the fault of the parents or it's the fault of the system. It's just something that needs to be fixed. It's life. It's life, because I've been there. I have had to go pick up my little sister from daycare, but I do also remember getting in trouble for not picking up my little sister on time. And I kept remember as a kid thinking, is this my responsibility?
So you think about that. You want to go to school, but you also you almost know it's not your responsibility, but as a family member and your mom's child, I want to help out, or if I can, right? So,
and what can we do or suggest for parents, that can help alleviate some of those responsibilities, because they're feeling it too. That's why we're steering the conversation. It's a 30-minute show, so please don't tune out thinking we're telling parents you just need to raise your kids better. That's not what we're saying. We're saying here are some tools that you can do, because these are things that are not being spoken about.
Right.
The sibling interactions, or even the kids in the household, and how they're dealing with not having their friends, and a lot of platforms are discussing it, but what is the real issue? They're going through some anxiety. They may be suffering from depression in those rooms, and we think that their outlets are these video games, and really those are just aiding into the depression, because really they want you to knock on the door and say, come on out and let's play Uno.
Right.
So for somebody that just learned how to play Uno today, I don't put the business in the street. Not today. 2 months ago, right? Okay, out of all the 30 years of experience in education, we got 5 days ago.
The numbers and the colors. Go figure. But I would just say, utilize your resources. A lot of parents do not realize how many resources that your school has.
Tell us.
And I am your resource. A lot of people, when I talk to parents, are like, oh, I didn't know that we can do that. But I always consider my position and myself as a person that's able to think outside of the box. So we know what the box is, parents, the normal, 2-family income household, whatever, if everyone's working and things of that nature. But you gotta think outside of the box for that family that's not a 2-income household, or that single mother, or that grandmother that's raising her kids.
Yes.
So just thinking outside of that box, and like I said, utilizing your resources in your schools. A lot of people don't believe it, but most schools are Title I schools, and for people that don't know that, Title I is like a school. I'll give you a prime example where you have 99% of free and reduced lunch. So you would be in an urban area, and those schools get a lot of funding for before care, after care, even on the weekends, all kind of programming. So I just say tap into your school, and if they don't have it, put the pressure on them, because the funds are there.
Okay, and since we're talking about resources and funding, I know that there's a lot of parents that are struggling with the inadequacies of educating their students or their kids, trying to figure out, am I doing this right? Do I know what's right? And they're starting to spot stuff, because I'm noticing that parents are getting good at teaching their kids because it's their passion.
Right.
They should be your passion, so you should be putting all you can into them. So when I'm hearing faculty, teachers, or students, or even parents say, well, what if I'm noticing something's off with my child in the midst of them being home? Like they're not gaining the answers quickly, or maybe there's some kind of learning disability. Is there a resource that you can help parents or steer them to for if they want to get their students checked or their kids checked?
Definitely. I feel like most schools has a school psychologist, and the psychologist is responsible for testing your child.
Okay.
So whether it's for ADHD, or give me some other disabilities that students may have,
autism,
like autism,
Asperger's.
Exactly. So there are people. You have a SPED coordinator, you have a school psychologist, you have myself, you have the social workers, you have an array of adults in the building that can get your child the help that you need. And I said this, I feel like since I've been here, I said that we are our kids' biggest advocates.
We are.
Like, you have to speak up for your child, because I know you have, like, again, the services are there, but how often do parents get the phone call to say, oh, hey, these are the services we have, do you need these?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't get that call, if a parent doesn't ask about it, they don't know about those.
No.
So I encourage them, reach out to your school. Hey, my child is having issues. They even have online tutoring and mentoring.
Yes.
So like those things are really, really huge. Take advantage of them. Use them.
And that's available K through 12 and college. I know that the universities that I've taught at, even online, on ground, and across the country, they all have online tutoring services available.
Right.
So just because you're not physically in the classroom doesn't mean that your education has stopped. People are still trying to figure out how can we move past it. And for us, this new transition is debunking what was old and creating something new. So what are some recommendations? I know we've got some families at home putting it together. I know you were the king of billboards, in your school, but are you doing that at home? Are you keeping
bulletin boards?
Bulletin boards.
Oh, I don't do those anymore.
But you enjoyed it.
Yeah,
It wasn't a requirement from your position, but it was something that was an outlet for your position. And it gave you the creative forces to be able to put some information out there that students love to watch. You remember back in the day, I remember back in the day, I used to walk by and see all the little monthly bulletin boards. You can tell I'm not in K through 12 anymore because I always forget that's billboards. You see billboards, marketing. But bulletin boards. What can parents do to create learning spaces in their home, like bulletin boards or chalkboards, or we talked about chalkboards are probably no-go, but what can we do to create the learning space?
I mean, you know what? It's the same thing as adults working from home. You have to create that space where you're comfortable, where you can focus, and it's somewhere where you want to be. I know when we first started working from home, I was working on the sofa or sitting at the table or something, and I noticed that I wasn't getting as much work done. So it's all about your environment. And that's something I always say, give them stock in it. Like, so if you need to create that for your child, communicate with your child. Hey, like, it's people don't believe it, but it's really simple conversation. Like, and you don't have to approach it as a conversation, just in general talking to your child. They'll tell you what they need. People don't believe that, but if you have that conversation, if you just a regular conversation, not, oh, this is planned, let's talk about how we can improve your grades, just talking, it'll come out. And then work with them and let them, I always say, if you have a person that you take advantage of this, you're going to be that person that say, hey, I'm going to go in and create the space for myself. If you have hands-on with that, you're going to figure it out to work for yourself. So I would just say, for creating their spaces for students, make sure that it's something that they're involved in. Don't just go and say, oh, let me grab a desk and grab a chalkboard. Your child may not like to sit in a desk with an arm on it or something, so you gotta, again, it's all about thinking outside the box. For me, anyway, personally.
That's a great idea. Involve them in the creative area, because most teachers, you show up and that's their creative space, and then they get to teach in that, and you just gotta hope you can catch on, whether it be Winnie the Pooh themed or it be Voltron. I don't even know what that is, but you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of different things that people in their minds can do. So you're right. If you're trying to spark your children, you should let them be involved in the learning process to see what actually sparks them. Because apparently can't get on Earth unless you do. You can tell I had a lot of downtime watching movies and whatnot. So can't get down here if you don't have a purpose. So and that should be the plan. I mean, I don't know how enlightening that movie was, but that movie was really, for a cartoon. When I had to rewatch it after I fell asleep the first time, the second time around, I got a lot of information, and the information is, what you doing if you ain't got no purpose?
Yeah, and that's what I took from it, and I was telling people, and so we're talking about soul. So I was like, I was hearing a lot of things about it, and I was like, I gotta check it out, because I love all things black. And so I was like, I didn't really get anything out of it, but then after, like you said, after I thought about it, it was basically just like, what is your purpose? And
don't let your time run out. And when you let your time run out, you can't get it back. Sorry. That's for these children now. You gotta help them get to their purpose. That whole entire movie kind of sparked even more momentum for this programming to say, you know what, we can't hold on to this information. Our time of our 20s and twerking are gone, at least for me. But those days, you gotta let the young girls have it, you gotta let the young kids have it, you gotta let them have their moment.
Because they had ours.
We had ours, and that's when I get mad when older women tell me, oh, you shouldn't be wearing those shoes because it's bad for your back. But in your moment, you wore these shoes.
Until you
couldn't. So let me do me until I can't. And I appreciate the words of wisdom letting me know that I probably shouldn't do this every day, because I know that it leads to long-term repercussions for my back. But when you see me in them on the weekend, let me live my moment. Let me live my moment. The same way with these children. They're in a moment right now where they don't know what's happening.
Right.
Their education is question marked. Their graduations are being taken away from them faster than they can earn them. We don't know what it is that they're mentally dealing with behind the books, behind the walls, and in those classrooms, even those that are showing up to campus. What are you discovering? Because I know that your daughter opted out, shout out, your daughter opted out this semester to not return physically to campus, but to do it virtually. How does that make you feel as a parent?
Well, this semester I was kind of like, whatever you want to do. Last semester I was very adamant in her not going back, but again, she was a sophomore. Her freshman year was cut short with the pandemic. So she wanted to get back on campus. Just, you know, when you get that taste of freedom, it's like, I want it. And she wanted it. And I was like, listen, I don't think it's a good idea, but at the end of the day, she's a young adult. So I have to let her make some choices by herself. And after this semester, she was like, you know, I'm not going back on campus this semester. I think I'm going to stay at home. So, and it was one of those things that she sent a little emoji with a hand on her face, like, I should have listened to you. Because I told her, I was like, yeah, I told you. She was like, yeah, I should have listened. But it's a learning. It's life. It's a learning process. So I feel like I've instilled those values in her and the morals that she's able to get it now. She was like, you know what? I get it. So I can sit this semester out and go back in August. So.
But they have to see. They have to see for themselves, parents. And if you're fighting that battle with your college students, because I know we spent the Texas and it comes out. We spent a little time. We spent a little time on K through 12. But again, let's talk about some higher ed issues. What are we doing to make them want to come back to campus, and what are we noticing on campus? For me, I've noticed that the energy is gone.
Oh yeah, I mean, because again, we're social distancing. So I went to HBCU, Southern University, shout out, little plug real quick. But like, it was lit. Like, you know, it was like Wednesdays was the thing to do on campus, just hang out in the yard. Like all the fraternities and sororities were either stepping or crossing. It was fun, and they don't have that now. So it's like, why am I paying money to just basically sit in my room and take classes online that I can do at home?
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a totally different environment now.
So what happens when I see the parents are having the revelation? Now we've discovered that the students are having the revelation. So when are the universities going to have the revelation? Because there should be, I don't know, because thank God and shout out to the Wrights. I appreciate them so much. I never had to write a bill for tuition. You know, so what does that look like right now? And thank you guys. What does that look like right now? These tuitions, are they getting cheaper? Are they getting more expensive? Because we're taking away so much from the product package. Should they be going down or increasing?
So I think they are going down. I know for me, I'll have a little break this semester just because I'm not paying for room and board. And if you know, actually that's the biggest bulk of tuition, room and board. Because even when I didn't stay on campus, like I could take classes during the summertime for like, I think my mom would give me like $400 for a class. And like, that's really cheap. But I also wasn't living on campus. You know, I'm sure it would probably have been like $1,500 or if not more just to live on campus. So you do take that aspect away, but you're still paying just to be enrolled in that university.
Oh, I know. I'm aware. I haven't seen it from the financial side, and I try not to speak on anything that I don't know about. And that's wisdom, knowing when to fall back on stuff that you do know and what you don't know. So I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, tuition's high. I could not tell you. I can
tell you it is. Tuition is high, but I will say that, like again, her not being on campus, that saves me a lot of money as far as like with her food, the room and board. I'm sure of a little miscellaneous things that she needs when she's not at home. So
let me ask you this: what piece of advice would you give our college-age parents who are struggling with their students that are saying, I want to go back to campus, and maybe they're where you were last year? How do we help them over the hump to let them figure it out and know that their kids are going to be okay? But it's also risking their lives for them to explore their freedom.
I would say, and someone told me this, I can't remember who I had this conversation with, but I was going really back and forth, and they were like, you know, as young adults, we made decisions that our parents were not comfortable with or did not approve of. But also, our parents had to let us do it. And then I had to reflect back to my faith in God, and I was like, okay, you know, all I can do is ask her to cover. The dumbest, stupidest things I've done, I know my mom had to say, God, just please cover my child.
Exactly.
And so that's what I did, and she went back to school, and again, it goes back to she learned that lesson on her own. So for myself as a parent, I would say, hey, first thing first is your health, your child's health. You know, have real conversations with them, letting them know, hey. And I even did that. I was like, hey, okay, so we've decided this is what you're gonna do. So these are the steps. Make sure you're taking your vitamins. Make sure you're washing your hands. You know, even when it comes to like going to grab food and stuff, make sure you're not hanging around a lot of people. And again, I say they're young adults, but they're still children. You know what I'm saying? When you're dealing with an 18, 19, even 20-year-old, they're still children. So they have some common sense, but they don't have life experiences and all say, hey, I shouldn't probably be doing this right now.
So what can we help them with? Because we have a lot of students that tune in. We talk to the parents, we talk to the administration, we ask them to lower the prices. We've done, we've done that stuff. Now let's just talk to, like you said, having the simple conversations with some of these students. We know that you want to go back. We know it's exciting. It's the first of the year. You want to explore, you want to see what's new and available to you. But those things may cost you your life. They may cost you some more money, and they may cost you more time than it actually would have taken you to just jump over the hurdles. This is an opportunity to reinvent your careers and your educational process. Realizing the importance of education is step one, but how to use it is step two. So if you're using it as a tool to get to the next level, then you may not necessarily need the traditional platform of a university, because you can jump over that and take online courses at the university of your choice, and obviously save a little bit of money, save a little bit of time, and save your friends and parents and family the headache of your health, and maybe even yourself. But I know that we're going to step back and you guys are going to do what you do, because that's what your moment is now, to do what you do. What would you recommend for the college student that's like, I'm going back? I mean, what you gonna do to stop me?
I would just say, and you know what? We're not here to stop you. I would just say that, and I always tell people, especially my daughter, I'm only 42. I'm like, we're not that far removed. And you have to realize, we're running out of time. You have to realize that we're not the parents that our parents were, right? So like, we get it, we understand, but also listen when adults are talking to you, especially your parents. This is real knowledge. And I can say this because I have looked back so many times and be like, damn, my mama really said that. And it was true. So like, just listen. Like, I promise you, your parents are not trying to steer you wrong. Just listen.
They're trying to get you to avoid the drop, like the movie. The soul, because if you watch the movie, when I watched it the second time, there were so many little clues that I loved about this movie, and I'm going to point out a couple of them because it was only first 5 minutes, so it wasn't like a spoiler alert, as they call them. But if you notice in the beginning, everybody kept warning him, hey, I get you on the phone, but you might want to watch out. He almost missed the sand falling on him, but just having 2 steps ahead. But those types of things, if you look out and you pay attention to the warning signs, and you pay attention to what people are trying to tell you, you can really avoid the drop zone. You can avoid that point where you get dropped to the bottom and you're like, I don't know how to get out of this thing. Because that is what happens in life, not just in a movie called Soul, that happens to your soul. If you get to a point where you are dropping your energy, your passion, everything that you do into this hole of abyss that you may be finding in the bottom of your blunt, or the bottom, I'm being blunt about it, in the bottom of your blunt, or the bottom of your snack basket, or the bottom of your shopping cart. The reality is that you have to learn what your priorities are and how to move past that, regardless of whether you're on campus, off campus, parents' approval, non-parent approval, K through 12, college, university, side gigs, whatever it may be. Adulthood. We are here to help you, and these resources are available, and we will have them located for you on the websites, MissLadyManagement.com, adegreeofdopeness.com. Future Dr. McCrady, if you have some questions for him, he's always on Instagram. He might not respond though, so you just gotta be patient. Any sounding off or any last minute recommendations in education and life that you want to give to these parents?
Anybody? It's a new day. It's a new day, and I would say last thing, like I was very much so like, oh, I'm not into virtual learning and all that, but like you have to adapt. Like time is moving, so it's either you move with it or you get ran over. I think I used that metaphor before with the bulldozer, right?
The soul power will take over.
Take over.
But thank you so much for tuning in. That was another episode. We hope you got some great information from it. We hope you learned something. If not, pass it on to your parents, friends, family, and foes, maybe, and let them know that we've got some great information. We thank you so much for tuning in again. God bless, and you guys have a good night.